Welcome to the Big Heart Fun, the podcast where we explore the full spectrum of life's experiences, adventures, challenges, and joys. I'm Melissa, and alongside me is Gemma. We're your hosts on this very exciting journey. Reflecting back, it's bizarre how parallel our lives have run since our college days. Gemma and I both have been blessed with a set of boy-girl twins. We share a passion for health and wellness. And even though we're originally from South Africa, we both found our homes in Europe. In this podcast, we'll share our experiences with raising twins, the challenges and rewards of moving to a new continent, and our personal adventures in health and wellness. The Big Heart Fun isn't just our podcast name, it's our approach to life. It's about embracing all that life throws our way, finding the humor amidst the chaos, and understanding that it's the challenges that makes the joys so rewarding. Thank you for joining us on our very first episode, and we're excited to have you with us and look forward to sharing real stories, practical advice, and plenty of heart. Make sure you follow us on our social media for more content. Until our next episode, let's keep embracing the joy, the challenges, and the fun that life has to offer.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Big Heart Fun podcast with me, Gemma, and Melissa.
Hi, guys.
So, today's episode is about the transition into motherhood and how both Melissa and I have experienced that. We both have boy-girl twins, but in different situations, with Melissa already having a child before having her twins. So, we're going to discuss what it was like for us going from carefree young gals to being moms.
Yes. So, Gemma, if you don't mind, I would like to start off by asking you the first question as we start this episode. And I would like to know, can you please describe that moment that you found out that you were going to be a mom of twins? How did you feel? What was going through your mind?
The funniest thing was that before I went for my first scan, I knew that they were going to tell me something beyond you're pregnant or there's a baby. I knew that they were going to tell me something. I was expecting the worst. I was expecting that there's something wrong, or, I was expecting something different. And the woman then said, "Oh, there are two in there." And I felt like my heart drop. My husband thought it was a joke, so he didn't really react. He was just like, "Oh, this is obviously what they say to first-time parents. It's a joke." And it took him a while to realize that she was not joking. Yeah, I definitely felt a sense of disappointment because I knew that it was going to be hard and not what I expected and what I imagined the first child pregnancy experience to be. What was it like when you found out that you were having twins versus when you found out you were pregnant with your first daughter?
So it's actually so weird because I don't feel like we ever had this conversation ourselves, and we both went through the same thing before. So obviously with my first, I expected obviously that everything was going to be fine and everything, like it was, I think the normal scenario of when you fall pregnant with one child. But my story is literally exactly the same as yours with the pregnancy of the twins. So I immediately felt like something wasn't right. I had a feeling that maybe I might have a miscarriage, or that there would be something wrong within the pregnancy. And I went for the scan at, I think it was 7 weeks. And then same thing, like my husband always used to record while doing ultrasound. So he was recording while the doctor was doing the ultrasound, and the doctor just said, "Oh, twins." And my heart stopped. And Daniel, my husband, was recording and the whole camera was shaking.
Oh my goodness.
And we were both freaked out because love my daughter to bits, my eldest, but she was not the easiest toddler, and I was thinking in my head, oh my goodness, I'm going to have 3 kids like this, and how am I going to handle it? I burst out into tears. I was not happy at all. I cannot say that I was excited. I cannot say that I felt #blessed. I was just a mess. When we left the hospital, I was crying in the car. Daniel had to actually calm me down. It wasn't a feeling of happiness at all, unfortunately, back then.
Yeah, it's just the unknown, the daunting unknown that is just so overwhelming in that already emotional, heightened experience.
Yeah, and I mean, for you, I think it was the fear of the unknown because you've never done this before, and now you will have 2 babies that you have to look after. And I think then on the flip side for me, because I had a baby already and I knew what it entailed to have a baby, I was like, there's no way I can do this with 3 kids. And also, obviously, not having any support around us.
Mm. So what were some of your expectations about motherhood before you had your eldest daughter? So before you even became a mom, what were your expectations?
Okay. Expectations on what I would be like was I put the bar really high. I wanted to be like the perfect earth mother. I wanted to, do gentle parenting. I wanted, for my child to only wear reusable nappies. I wanted to give them organic food. I only wanted her to have wooden toys. Um, I wanted to breastfeed her until she was 3. I put so much pressure on myself. That first year after having Savannah, my eldest, I really feel like it was very tough because I tried to live up to those expectations I had in my head. And by the way, no one told me I had to be this. This was me putting the pressure on myself. I just wanted to be like that, and I quickly realized that, this is not sustainable. Like if I'm going to do this, I'm going to drive myself insane.
What can you remember, like a pivotal moment that like led to that, or was it just a gradual change or a gradual relaxing into it?
I think it was definitely gradual, and I think it's thanks to some of my friends who just told me, like you need to relax about this. It doesn't have to be so complicated. But I also do know what led me to be like that. And the reason why I feel like I used to be like that is because I used to put my own mother on a pedestal, and I used to always look at her as being perfect. And she did reusable nappies, she fed us the best food, she was a stay-at-home mother. So I had this picture in my head of my mom being absolutely perfect. um and I wanted to live up to that as well. Gemma, how did the reality of motherhood with twins align with what you thought it would be like?
I mean, it did not align.
Yeah.
um, I guess in the same sense as you having these expectations of yourself. Um, I guess mine quickly disappeared because straight off the bat, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna have to breastfeed 2 babies. Um, I mean, even going back to the beginning, I was adamant that I was going to have unmedicated natural birth. I was like, I'm going to do this just because generally twins are more often than not cesarean section, and I was just not going to let that happen. Um, and so I put pressure on myself for that. I was lucky that I didn't have to have a C-section, but with breastfeeding as well, I was super anxious about how that was going to work out, and I put huge pressure on myself to breastfeed them as long as possible. But eventually, I, I couldn't. It was too difficult, and there are people that can and do and did, and that's
Mm.
great. But it just unfortunately didn't work for me and for us. Um, and the moment I took the pressure off with breastfeeding, that was a huge game changer because I was like, oh my goodness, like we can sleep more. I don't feel like
Mm.
I'm a cow attached to either the babies or the pumping machine. The background of
Mm.
all my videos is just like I also wanted to do everything myself, and I was like not going to accept help, which I also realized at the time was like cutting off your nose to spite your face, kind of like, I don't
Mm.
want help, but no one's helping me. Don't help me. I won't help. I was going to do it all myself because we were having twins and that was it, and no more babies, and this was our only chance, and so I had to do it all myself because this was going to be my only experience. I
Yeah.
definitely relaxed also as they got older, and as I realized that I could have more free time and look after myself more, the more I let
Mm.
go of the reins.
Yeah, I definitely think, I mean, for me, if I had to compare having, the first child and then the twins after, like the breastfeeding, I just could not wrap my mind around it. My first child, it was the best thing ever. I mean, I didn't have anything else to do apart from looking after her. So breastfeeding was amazing and I embraced every single minute of it. I mean, I would have probably managed to push much longer, but by 13 months, I was like, okay, we're done now. But with the twins, I could not do it. I really wanted to do it because I enjoyed it so much the first time around, but I just could not do it with the twins. And the thing is, I also put a lot of pressure on myself because I joined a lot of Facebook groups for twin moms. And these twin moms were telling me, I've got 7 kids and I breastfed all of them and I've got 2 sets of twins. I don't know. I don't know how the hell these women do it. I mean, listen, both of us did breastfeed, but it was super, super challenging, like holding 2 rugby balls on either side. And the thing is, tandem feeding, I found the most challenging. Like feeding one at a time, okay, but tandem feeding was insane because the one boob would have more milk than the other, and then you have to switch them around. Once I kind of told myself, you know what, let's just try and drop this. Life as a twin mom became a bit easier. And I'm not like telling anyone to stop breastfeeding, but if you feel like it's very challenging and you just can't do it, don't put so much pressure on yourself to try and just do it for the sake of it.
There's obviously this huge stigma around formula and like breast is best, the ongoing wars and debates around
Mm,
that. But honestly, your sanity in that moment when you have
mm,
very, very, very small babies, and in your case, another small child, like you're hanging by a thread. And
mm,
if you have the opportunity to use something that will make your life marginally easier,
exactly.
then use it. I mean, I remember giving them their first formula bottle, and I was sobbing, I was crying, I felt like I'd failed,
Mm,
and I felt that I was like poisoning them.
hmm.
They're fine now. They're
Exactly.
physically, mentally, emotionally, I don't know, but like physically, they're fine. They're completely fine. Um, and so to have that kind of lifeline or to have that extra support is it's a game changer.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Even, pumping, because I mean, I've got many friends who went back to work and they would go and sit in the toilet cubicle and pump. That is a lot of pressure, and I honestly, I take my hat off to you if you can do that and if you are willing to do that, but that is a lot to put on yourself just not to give the kids formula.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, once I also went to formula, I mean, game changer, game changer. But with that said, I really loved breastfeeding. I really loved it. I just feel like with twins, it's super, super challenging.
Yeah, I definitely didn't I didn't enjoy it. When you were saying that like tandem feeding was difficult, but then
Mm,
if you're feeding one on one, that takes even longer because
mm,
first you're doing the one, then you're doing the other one, then
mm.
maybe you're doing the other one again. Yeah,
Okay, so
so
you are constantly just breastfeeding and you end up feeling like a cow.
I would get trapped on the couch, and I was like, you just can't leave because you've got two
Yeah.
babies sleeping on you.
I had so much trouble back then as well because I needed Daniel to bring the kids to me because I had a cesarean. So
Yes.
I couldn't even like stand up. Like the kids had to be handed to me and then I have to feed them and then pass them back. So I was literally just like, you know, lying down like drink. I want to ask you, navigating motherhood in 2020 was obviously a very unique challenge for both of us. And how did the pandemic impact your experience?
Hugely. It hugely affected it or impacted it. Um, Obviously, because they were my first child, my first children. They're the first grandchildren in the family, the first everything, and so many of those experiences were affected because of the pandemics. My mom was luckily eventually able to come 3 months after they were born, but I had a doula. She wasn't able to be with me in the delivery room. My husband went back to work after 2 weeks, and I was alone at home with two babies every day. Their family only met them when they were 9, 10 months old. We were finally able to fly home. But it just felt really, really lonely because we were stuck inside and I didn't have a mom community. I didn't have anywhere to go, anything to do. And we were so scared. We were so scared still at that point because it was in 2020. So things were sort of still
Mm.
unknown. And so you felt so nervous about going anywhere, with tiny babies. And so it was really lonely and scary and just not nice. I mean, having children, having a baby is difficult enough as it is. But then to throw on the parameters of like, you can't leave your house, you can't see anyone, you can't go anywhere, just adds another whole layer. And there were uh, millions of people who went through it. But when
Yeah.
you're in your own little bubble, you feel like you're the only one in the world.
Yeah. Especially
And
because it was your first time going through it as well, So I think that adds to, like, it's your first experience going through any of these things, and having to go through it alone
absolutely. I
was
mean,
tough.
now even still, if I go to the shops and I see women pushing a baby around, the shop in a pram, I'm just like, I never got to do that. Or moms having coffee with the baby in the pram, like I never got to do that. Um, Granted, it would have been a lot more difficult because you can't fit a double stroller in anywhere, and that's a huge big issue. But still, I didn't have the chance or the opportunity. So a lot of my experience and memories of their first years of life are pretty dark because of how hard it was.
Because of COVID.
Yeah, and because how much
Mm.
of the experience was affected by COVID. Yeah. So, Melissa, with an older child and twin babies, how did you manage the complexities that the pandemic brought into your life?
Um, I feel the complete opposite. There was obviously a couple of challenges, but I feel like I kind of took that in my stride. The challenges to me was the fact that my husband was not allowed to join on most of the ultrasounds, which was not nice. So that's something that I struggled with a bit. And I feel like that's something that was taken away from us. But for the rest, I actually feel like for us, it was a blessing in disguise, that period. And the reason why I'm saying that is because my husband also goes to work every single day. He's got his own business, so there's no days off really. And then obviously at that time our eldest was 2.5, and she used to go to daycare every other day as well. And all of a sudden, all three of us were at home. And to me, that was such a special period of time because we were never going to have that time alone together ever again. That forced us to be together. I could see how it really did all of us really good. I was able to rest, which I would not have done even if I was alone and my husband was at work and my daughter was at daycare. I'm not the type of person that gives myself time to lie down or to rest. Even if I'm pregnant with twins, I just don't give myself that opportunity to do so because it makes me feel guilty, which is something I'm trying to work on. But back then, um, I could rest. My husband could look after our daughter. We spent time together. And then obviously after the twins were born, we were so incredibly blessed to have gotten my parents over to Malta, which is where we used to live. And they lived like a block away from us. So it was a positive experience in my opinion. And the reason why is just because it forced me to slow down and to live a bit more in a bubble, which is not something I usually do. And I think if it wasn't like that, I would have been really overwhelmed
Mm,
just to go into the real world with
mm.
three kids, go to the shops, carry on with social lives, having people over. And also, I had absolutely no anxiety about COVID at all. I was just relaxed. I was like, well, they're kids. Like, it's not really going to affect the kids that much. Like, I was just not stressed out. So I think my experience was like literally the opposite of yours.
That's amazing. Like,
Yeah. But with that said, I think the reason why it was the complete opposite was because I already had our firstborn,
yeah,
which,
you'd already gone through it. And also it sounds like you were also able to then ease into sort of
mm,
slowly going into the world with three kids. So you had that year to adjust and
yeah,
get used to managing being outnumbered, and you could
exactly.
slowly
Exactly.
enter the world.
Exactly. And I really felt like I needed a lot of time to adjust to that because I am the type of person that can get overwhelmed very, very quickly. And I cannot even explain how overwhelming it was to have three small kids. So the fact that we could do that within four walls and just take it easy was, I think, what we needed. Okay, Gemma.
Mm.
So every motherhood journey comes with its unique set of challenges. What were some of the unexpected challenges that you faced up until now?
The first thing I can think of is just lack of sleep. Um,
Mm.
Obviously, you have a baby, you sleep less. But with them, it was sort of one would wake up, and then that one would go back to sleep, and then the other one would wake up, and it was like yo-yo. And if it wasn't
Yeah.
in one night that they would wake up alternately, then it would be each night. So one night the one would sleep, and the next night the other one would sleep. And so for a long time, um, the sleep was a huge issue, and nothing can prepare you for that. I mean, people tell you, "Yo, you're not going to sleep. Enjoy sleep while you can," but until you have been sleep deprived to that degree, you have no idea how crucial sleep is. I mean, they use it as a method of torture and war and stuff, uh, and it makes you go crazy. It definitely affected our relationship, my husband and I,
Mhm.
um, and it makes you go a little bit cuckoo. So I think
Mm.
that was something that I probably knew about, but I just didn't anticipate the intensity of it. Yeah, I would say that was the hardest, and then just managing two babies. It's like two different babies. Like they're two different
Yeah, exactly.
personalities, they're two different children. It's like you have one kid and then you have another kid. They're
Mm.
not the same. The only thing they share is a birthday. That's it.
Mhm.
Um, so trying to learn each kid's needs at the same time. Sort of if you've had one kid, you know them after a
Mm.
while, and then you have another kid. In a normal case, you have one. But
Yeah.
with us, you're having to learn two different personalities, two different needs at the same time, all the time while you're sleep deprived. And it's like, what?
Yeah. I know the sleep deprivation. You cannot explain it to anyone unless they've been through it. I think for me, sleep deprivation was also our biggest thing, and we struggled with our eldest until the age of 2.5. So she literally did not sleep one night through until the age of 2.5, and we ended up having to we had to get professional help, which is the last thing I wanted to do because this Earth Mother did not believe in getting professional help and to train your child to sleep, but we didn't know how to carry on with life if we could not, rest properly. And it's so crazy because this woman just literally did everything that we did, but just with a tweak. You just need to tweak tiny little things. And we don't think of those type of things as parents because, we are scared that we're going to scar our kids by doing a certain thing. Uh, and eventually it ended up working. I mean, she's still not the best sleeper. She's almost 7 years old. I still need to lie next to her every single night until she falls asleep. But at least I got to a point now where I'm okay with it. If this is what she needs, this is what she needs. If I don't sleep 8 hours, I am horrible. I am absolutely horrible. Like my husband can get by with 5 hours. I cannot sleep less than 8 hours and I'm super grumpy. And the first person I'm going to take it out on would be him and the kids.
And in our situation, my husband, he was great and he did help a lot, but it got to a point where he was like, for his job, he needs to focus, he
Mm,
needs sleep. And so he he wouldn't get up as much and
yeah,
sometimes not at all. And that's just because of his job. And so I was the one carrying the load of two babies,
yeah,
sleep disorders. And yeah, it was a lot. And so obviously now it's way better, but when they do wake up, you get used to sleeping again. And then when they wake up,
yeah.
you're like, what?
That can also cause resentment if your partner cannot get up for the kids and you need to be the one getting up every single night. And we love them. We are very happy that they can provide for the family and they can go to work the next day. But like you said, if you can't sleep properly, you lose it. And then we end up being the ones that has to get up every single night to look after the kids, which I mean, for us, it also caused a lot of problems, and not because it's anyone's fault. It's just the way that it is.
And then so you're the sleep deprived one, and you're the one dealing with the kids. And so you're completely drained, and then you take it out on the husband and the kids, and it's just like this giant, big shit show.
And one thing that I also will say that was a really big challenge for me was just mom guilt. And no one put that pressure on me, but I think it's just normal. Like you feel guilty about everything.
All the
And I
time.
keep thinking like, am I screwing you up? Like, am I going to turn you into this horrible person? And, you know, obviously like we are also human. So sometimes we like explode. And then when I do that, I'm like, oh my word, like I am literally messing up your life.
I asked my husband the other day, I'm like, do you ever experience like guilt? He's like, for what? I was like, never mind, never mind.
I mean, I've asked that question before as well, and Daniel's answer was very similar. Like he would just be like, "No, no." I think they think more like logical. Like he's just like, "We are human, like these things happen. You cannot beat yourself up about these things." And I'm like, "How can you not beat yourself up?" Like I lie awake at night beating myself up. I wish sometimes I can just think the way that they think, but it just feels so uncomplicated.
Having the perspective of being a mom before having your twins, what lessons did you find the most valuable?
To chill, to just completely relax about things because and I could really feel that I changed a lot from my first to when I had the twins. I was definitely more relaxed. Like um, even with our first, I would literally wake up at night and see if her chest is like moving up and down to check if she's still breathing or it was simple things. And by the time that I had the twins, I already relaxed when it came to um the pressure that I put on myself with our first. So i I wasn't too worried about like giving them formula after I decided not to breastfeed them. And I if they're gonna eat pasta tonight, it's fine. Like I didn't put that pressure on myself like I did the first time. So I think overall, I just really relaxed a lot more. Even taking them to school because it was such a massive thing for me to take Savannah to daycare She was 18 months old, I think, when she started. And with the twins, I was ready to send them like when they were one, but I couldn't find a place that would take them. So by 18 months, I was like, see ya, like I'm dropping you off. Like I'm not worried at all. Whereas when I dropped Savannah off the first time, I was sitting in the car sobbing. Whereas now I'm just like, I need alone time. Like if I don't have alone time, I'm not going to be a good mother for you. So, yeah, it's just the whole feeling of being more relaxed, which is great because that makes the process much easier.
So, how important has your support system been, especially with 3 kids, and what form has it taken?
My biggest support system has been childcare. Um, I don't have nannies or anyone that really helps me out daily. So my biggest support system has always been, um, daycare. Since the kids were 1.5, they started going to daycare. And after they started daycare, I feel like I got a bit of me back again. I don't know where I would be without daycare. Um, you and I both live in Europe, so we don't have our families with us. And it made, especially the first few years, very, very, very difficult because you would like to just call your mother and say, like, I'm having a shit day. Like, I really, really, really need help. It would really have made a massive difference. Um, but obviously we didn't have that. So I am very blessed now because we recently moved to Portugal and my parents moved to Portugal last year. So now I will finally have that support. But I would say that the support when they were younger would have been more helpful because that's when I really, really, really struggled. So,
Mm.
yeah, I would say that my biggest support system is probably daycare. And then obviously, I mean, my husband as well. I mean, without him, I also don't know where the hell I would have. And for you, like, what would you say your biggest support is?
2 weeks after my husband went back to work, I was alone with the babies, with no help for about 3 weeks, and I was drowning. I
Mm,
couldn't I just couldn't manage anything. And so we were lucky to get help and an amazing woman who helped with the house and laundry and cleaning and things that I just didn't have the capacity for. And she has been with us since yeah, they were a month old. And that has been a huge support. We have her 3 times a week to just help with house things and when I've needed it. Although it did take me a very long time because I wanted to do everything myself. When I
mm,
finally did leave her with them, I also felt a sense of like, my wings are back.
yeah.
And that was huge. And also sending them to creche. It was only for 3 hours, but it was 3 hours that I needed. And then I was also very lucky that every now and then my mom was able to come for like a month at a time. So she's been over a lot from South Africa to help us, but still would give anything to just on a weekend just drop them off at my parents' house or with their grandparents and just, you know, ensuring each child feels special and cared for is crucial. How do you manage this with your 3 kids?
Um, I'm having a tough time with it still. I think the most challenging one would be our eldest. And I think the reason for it is because she had a chunk of time where she was alone. So all the attention was on her for 3.5 years. And then all of a sudden she had to compete with, not just one baby, but two. Um, and I think it definitely had a massive impact on her. So we do a lot with our eldest to make her feel like, she's special because she is, but also because she doesn't have a twin. So it affects her a lot that she doesn't have this constant buddy with her. Probably a year and a half ago, she was crying one night and I went to her and I asked her, "What's wrong?" And she said to me, "Well, my brother and sister, they have each other,
Oh,
and you and daddy, you have each other, but I have no one.
oh,
And she was young when she said this. She was I think she just turned 5. So for me to hear her say that was it was really sad, and that's part of the reason why even at nighttime, like I would go and lie next to her and make sure she's asleep, and if she needs me, I want to be there for her, even though I don't always want to do it.
mm,
I do it because I don't want her to ever feel like she's left out. Um, and then we also make sure that the twins feel like they have separate times with us as well, because obviously I think twins can feel like, they come as a package, which is not the case. Like they are two individual human beings.
mm,
And like you said, they were just born at the same time. They are their own person.
mm,
Um, so we try and have solo time with them as well. We don't do it as much as I would like to do it, but even during the day, if I can just give my individual attention to each of them for 10 minutes. So, seeing that you have twins, how do you ensure that they both receive individual attention?
Um, it's hard because also not having a lot of support, I and my husband working long hours and away a lot, I can't ever really split them up, because if I split them up, it's sort of traumatic in itself, because the one being left behind and not with me then has a really hard time, and I feel terrible leaving them behind. So I don't do that. So it's really, really hard. We can only ever really do it on the weekend, where my husband will take one somewhere or I'll take one somewhere. Um, because to do it during the week is kind of impossible for us. Um, and then even when we are at home, one-on-one attention is so difficult because they're you'd think that they're so used to sharing my attention, but it's still such an issue. Like the jealousy, especially with the one, the jealousy is just immense. And it's a case of like taking them out the bath in the evening. I take one out, and whoever I take out, the one in the bath is going to be crying. And
Yeah.
it changes every night. I'm like, it's your turn tonight. Tomorrow night, it will be your turn. And they're nearly 4. And I guess I expect too much of them, but I'm just so tired of the same. I am trying so hard, and
I
someone
know.
is always going to be upset. Someone is always going to be left out or behind,
Yeah.
um, because it's the 3 of us at home all the time. So, okay, so well, before we wrap up, what's one piece of advice that you could share with any listeners who might be embarking on their own motherhood journey, or who are in the trenches? Or
Okay. Those are definitely two separate things.
they are.
But I would say if you are thinking of, becoming a mother, I would say from the start, something that would have helped me a lot was to not research too much, not to read too many books, um, just kind of taking it in your stride and not to put too much pressure on yourself. Um, I think my biggest issue was that I put too much pressure on myself. And it's probably still today. It has gotten better, but that was definitely the thing that was the hardest for me because I just put too much pressure on myself. And then if you're on the trenches, which I am, and I think you are as well, um, the only thing I can tell you is that this too shall pass. That's the only advice I have because um, there's so many times my husband and I, especially like on New Year's, we sat outside and it was like 10 o'clock and we were tired. We just sat there and we looked at each other and we were like, what happened to us? Like, is this our life now? Like this feels a little bit sad. And we just both looked at each other and we were like, this will pass. Like we are literally in the thick of it right now. Um, and that's the only advice I can give you is that you have to cut yourself some slack and that it will pass because these early years with kids can be incredibly tough. And what I have realized, if I look around me, a lot of marriages fail during this time, when kids are this young, because it puts a lot of pressure on married couples. It you need to be so rock solid if you want to have a child. And that's actually something that I would also say. If you think about becoming a parent, make sure that your relationship is rock solid before you become a parent, because the amount of pressure that it can put on a relationship is insane.
Sure. It's so catch-22 because anyone with young kids knows that how hard it is these early years. And then they go so quickly, and then you look back and you're like, oh, but they were so cute and they were so little, and oh, I miss it. But it's like it was so hard. So you're trying to enjoy it, but it's very hard to enjoy something when you are being abused by your children who
Yeah.
are really mean, and you're trying your best and you're doing all the things, and you know you need to enjoy it because it goes so quickly, but you also just want it to be the end of the day because you can't anymore. And
Yeah.
the complexities of that are tiring.
No, it is. It's for sure. And the thing is, that's another thing that causes me to feel guilty a lot of the times, because I look back like at photos of like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like they were so. And I don't think about how hard it was then. I just think, oh, you look so cute.
Mm.
But I know for a fact, if I really think about it, I was struggling back then. So how was I supposed to enjoy that time if I was struggling so much? And that's why they keep saying, like, you should never wish for them to grow up. But it's hard not to sometimes, because I know each phase will have its challenges, but I think it's also just human nature to sometimes just wish for something to pass if it's hard.
So hard, yeah.
Gemma, do you have any closing advice that you can share with the listeners as well?
I think I would say ask for help if you can, any kind of help that you can get, take it, and do do the things that if they will make it easier, do them. So, in
Mm.
my case, it was the formula. Just not, again, like you said, not putting so much pressure on yourself. And you are the right mother for your child, and we're all going to screw them up on some level. So to kind of accept that and just do do what is best for you, because that will be the best for your children. So
Exactly.
as long as you are doing somewhat okay, then they will be as well.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. We loved having you here, and we are really looking forward to the next episode, which will be next week. You guys can catch us on Spotify, and if you would like to see the video version, you can head to the Big Heart Fun on YouTube. Thanks. See you next week.
See you next week. Bye.